All right, buddy, we're back and talking about a big topic today in the world of triathlon. Maybe if we get there.
Yeah, maybe big topic. And we've already got our lather, our sweat going in our pre-show meeting. But it's December 4th, everybody. The year 2022. Welcome aboard. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast, and this is episode 640.
Yes, it is 640.
Inching our way closer, ever so closer to 1,000 and early retirement. And appreciate a fine gentleman who sent us a very intense, detailed spreadsheet giving us the exact date and almost time of day when our 1,000th podcast will be, if we, continue along certain parameters. And it was funny because I think he mentioned at least 4 times in his email that I was the one that fucked up with
yeah, he's my athlete. That's why
he was like, he made it very, very clear that it was on me for screwing up the twice a week for 6 years. The consistency in the groove and the streak we had going. Yeah, I think he mentioned it like 7 times. I think even like PS, he was like signed his name, then he was like PS. Just for future reference, it was in fact Robbie that screwed up the the 2 a week with the flu.
It's gotta be written in the annals of our history.
It is, man. It was written in there. When I'm not, when I'm like, it's like Mark Sanchez and the butt pump. That's kind of how I feel about the whole situation. But it's your first time tuning in. Welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcast in general. Time is very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as coaches, but also as human beings on this planet. We also talk a lot about what our own athletes are going through. We both work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level athletes looking at the very first 5K or sprint, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to Kona and Nice, and everyone in between and from all over the world. And we use the feedback loop we have with them and training peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also utilize our amazing Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question, we'll let you right in. Amazing community, fantastic people, and great conversation. Utilize it. Don't be a lurker, but take advantage. There's a lot of great people in there who've seen a lot, been around the sport for a long time, and probably made all the mistakes that you're actually wondering about. So, again, ask questions and get great feedback. It really is an amazing community, very supportive, and really is an outstanding resource. We'll go in there about once a month and do a little bit of a Q&A, probably on tap for one of us here pretty soon. Maybe next week we'll pop in there and do it. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads. And although we get frequent interview requests, we don't do those either, or anymore at least. But we do have an agenda, and it's a very, very important one. And that's to do our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, and I'm keeping it healthy today. I'm wearing the new C26 beanie. It's keeping my ears nice and toasty down in the cold basements of Wisconsin. We have new beanies. We have all the classic hats. Have some hoodies and all kinds of stuff available at c26triathlon.com or in the store. Check it out. It's a really good time to pick that stuff up.
Gear up, people.
Gear up. And there's also some great training plans out there.
We do. We have our 2023 race-specific plans are still online and available. So if you're looking for planning and coaching, but more like looking for the training plan route for 2023, go to our website. Again, that's c26triathlon.com. It's got all the information. It's at minimum a 20-week plan. That includes Facebook groups, monthly Zoom calls, and really just a lot of education. So I'm super excited. We've had a absolutely great turnout. I'm looking forward to connecting with all the athletes on the Zoom calls and getting some good face-to-face time, answering questions, and set people up for success. That same thing goes for our custom coaching. If you're interested in having someone guide you and help you in 2023, click on our coaches tab and look through the coach bios and get the feel for the one that's right for you. But yeah, it's exciting time. A lot of great opportunities out there for 2023, and we also have our camps on there. We have our Wisconsin camp, which is, I think we only got 4 slots left. So if you're doing with Ironman Wisconsin or Wisconsin 70.3, really just even a late season full, or interested in doing those courses, there's a link to that. We've only, I think I said 5 slots. We had somebody sign up last night left for that. And that's next August. But it's always great to just peruse the website for all the things that we offer. Again, we offer, I think, top-notch coaching, but our community is what sets us apart. So check it out, and let us know if you have any questions. Today, it's going to be a barn burner.
I love how you get uncomfortable when I start promoting our stuff.
I do. I'm like,
just feel you're like cringing
sweaty.
up,
I'm like, I hate it.
Yeah.
Like,
we're more about attraction than promotion, right? So
yeah, it's an AA motto right there. It's about
Summer
attraction.
makes us do it.
And she does, yeah. She's like, you're really missing a lot of opportunities to do. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm just frankly uncomfortable doing it all. Seriously, I would rather speak in front of 1,000 people on a topic or something that means a lot to me than do a 45-minute plug about myself or about C26, because it makes me like really uncomfortable. I'm sure people that like walking by my office and they're like, man, that guy looks really uncomfortable. I hope this isn't his day job. But it's not. Our day job is talking to each other and talking to you and talking about some of the most important things in triathlon, but also in life. And that's what we're coming to today. I'll be honest. We were away at Run Camp last week. When the official news came out that Ironman decided that this next year, if you're not familiar, I'm sure you are, but if you're living under a rock and you don't follow pro triathlon, this year was the very first year they had the women on one day, the men on another. And it got, quote unquote, a lot of great feedback. The island is very happy to have us back. We're going to do it next year, kind of putting the cart before the horse. And you heard a lot and read a lot in the background of, yeah, maybe they didn't like it so much, we said this years and years ago, and I still believe it, and I think it's headed this way, that it's time for the World Championships, quote unquote, to go around the world and visit their place. I think it'd be great for the sport. And earlier last week, they made the announcement that the women only would race in Kona this year. Believe the traditional date in October. And then the men will race. We don't know. There's a lot of rumors going out. It's going to be in Nice, in France. That is yet to be confirmed. But that was the rumor that was started going around, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday. I had read some kind of some underground rumors on Monday and sent, because we've got male and female athletes both in Kona, and I was like, hey, just as a heads up, I'm kind of hearing that this is going to happen. They're like, no way. And then 24 hours later, a couple of media sites blasted it. And then Ironman came out and officially said they're splitting up venues, not just venues. We're talking about separate parts of the world here.
Yeah.
And sending them the women to Kona and the men to, again, they're saying it's not concrete. Most everyone will tell you it's going to be in Nice, France. And this is going to come to a giant shock to people that listen to this podcast and know that of my just unreal fear of flying.
You're not
before that got really bad. I've actually been to Hawaii and Nice, France. I went to France in high school with the French club, and the first place we stopped was Nice. I can tell you from personal experience, if I had to pick one place to vacation, it would be Nice, France. It's like the San Diego of Europe. It is like perfect temps, beautiful scenery, amazing. Hawaii is okay, but so here's, and I'll be honest, I'm really glad I've had a week to kind of settle in and really kind of absorb this and not give like a jerk reaction, 20-minute rant on, why this is great or why this is terrible. And, a lot of people in Ironman triathlon have come out and, and professional athletes and other coaches and big names have kind of always come out, or not always, but have the last week, and they kind of come in giving out their take. And then I think it's also important to make sure you look kind of like in the fine print of, who pays this person or where are they coming from. Luckily, we don't have sponsors. We don't have ads. We don't have anyone we have to answer to. So we can just kind of both give you our personal take on it. And I'll give you mine. And Mike, this may be one of those situations where you just have to like yell and be like, dude, shut up. It's my turn.
Well, yeah.
But first and foremost, I think a couple things. I think it's a terrible move initially. I think it's horrific. I think it's absolutely idiotic. The problem that we found ourselves in as a sport, right? And I'm talking about endurance sports. And I'm talking about the sport of triathlon, is that we have become obsessed with two things that aren't necessarily endurance sports triathlon centric, right? Ironman is not a distance, it is a business. They do what's in the business best interest. They will tell you, hashtag women for tri, that it's all about increasing participation for females in the sport of triathlon by doing a separate day, by giving, more slots, by putting them in Kona next year. Well, the fact of the matter is if you want to improve female participation, right? Females that are, more than likely to be the caregiver of the household, who, probably has less time, less opportunities to train outside in certain times of the day. Here's how we're going to really attract you to the sport. We're going to add additional spots to the longest event that we have, right? The Ironman, which takes the most amount of hours to train, right? And then we're also going to make it really fucking expensive to go to. That's how we're going to get more women in the sport. That's how we're going to get them excited. We're going to promote and add more slots to the most expensive, most demanding hour aspect of the sport. That's how we're going to get them. And it's in my opinion, I think it's bullshit because it's all about money, but that's where they go wrong in so many ways. And the other end of it is that Kona is also not a race. It is an island. And triathlon, through marketing, through NBC, through Ironman, Kona is / World Championships. Kona is Ironman. Ironman is Kona. World Championships are Kona. You don't say I'm with the World Championships. You say I won Kona, or and vice versa. So the obsession with both of those things has created this monster, and it's put Ironman, the business, in I think a really interesting position where 2020 and 2021 showed the business of Ironman and should have shown the community of triathletes around the globe. Again, I'll get to the globe part in a minute because they consider this a quote unquote world championship, is that Kona really isn't that interested in having you back. No race in 2020. They could have had one in 21. They said no. And they got used to not having, triathletes come and basically piss all over their town for 8 or 9 days. And they just didn't like it. So you distance yourself from the island, from the community. And then instead of kind of easing your way back in, for a typical 1-day event,
right,
which should have been what they did in the first place. Let's ease our way back in. We've been gone for 2 years. You got used to not having us, screw up your daily routine and flood the island with, elite, pretentious, selfish athletes. Not that they're all that way, but that's kind of the vibe that a lot of athletes give off. And so instead of kind of easing your way back in, we need to make up money. We need to make more money. So we're going to double in size, and we're going to take up more of your time. And not only that, we're not going to take up just a weekend day. We're going to take up a whole workday week from you. So we're going to shove it down your throat. That's a very, very quick way to get your ass kicked back to the curb, which is what happened. So Ironman spent the next few months advertising, more slots for men, more slots for women. We're going to have going back to Kona, every Ironman website. And when you went to, sign up for a race, they're handing out lays, you're going to Kona. And what they didn't realize, obviously, or they did and didn't want to tell anyone, was that the island wasn't really sure anymore they wanted everybody back again. And that's a problem that we created, right? And then Ironman, I think, capitalized and maximized on because, with the obsession of the island. And I get it from a tradition standpoint. I've been in the sport for 20 years. I get it. I've been there. Hell, I named my last dog Kona. Like, I get it. but change has to happen for growth. And what Ironman's doing is they're putting one foot out the door and leaving one foot in. And that's when no one wins here. You're going to send the females there for this year, and you're going to flood races with extra spots. But again, you're not growing the sport with extra slots. You're adding more slots that are going to fall down, like Ironman Western Australia that happened this last weekend. Only 3 of the 10 women age group winners took slots to go to Kona. And in 2 of the 3 age groups, it rolled down to second to last place in the age group, because it still comes back to money, right? How you can afford to go there. So you're not only diminishing calling yourself a world championship, right? Which means elite level athletes competing against other elite level athletes in an elite environment and an elite place on a special day where it should be very special to qualify. So now we need to flood this. So what we're going to do is we're going to put all the women there alone, right? And now we're going to put the rest of the sport, in my opinion, in a really awkward position, right? You're highlighting this day, which I listen, I'm all for. I thought the women only day was wonderful. And I thought the male only day I thought that was fantastic. But splitting it up on like a month apart in different countries, right? It's terrible. So what I'm afraid is going to happen, I'm going to shut up in a second, I swear.
Okay.
Is they're going to send the women are going to go to Kona, right? I think I'm going to guess and say there's less, because if you look at how many women, how many females participate in each race across the globe, it's the average is less than 30% of the field is a woman. Okay. Then you're going to ask, they're going to be giving away slots, and you're not giving away slots and opportunities, right? In my opinion, you are asking, all right, who can afford to go? It very similar to how the roll down is in a 70.3 World Championships when the race isn't in the U.S., right? It'll roll down to 30, 40, 50. And what it really comes down to who wants it / can afford it. So you're gonna have all the women go there. But then what you're also not thinking about is one of the biggest pieces that makes Kona, quote unquote, the World Championship and have the feel and the vibe is that everyone is there. Everyone. The field they had this last year, Kona, they had double the size. They also had an enormous amount of sponsors that were there, media that were there, extra. I mean, think about not just the extra participants that were there. Think about the participants' family, right? The families, the people they had come, the entourage, whatever it is, like coming to fill up Ali Drive and in the entire community, which again is why they probably didn't want to the same thing back again this year. So now what you're asking to do is you're going to put 2 races in 2 different months in 2 different parts of the world. And so sponsors and media are more than likely going to decide, do I want to afford going to Nice or do I want to afford going to Kona, right? And I have to look at the return in my investment, right? If you look at the entire population of the sport, it's 70% men, if not greater. So if I want to make the biggest impact on my return on investment, right, with professional men who and the sponsorship obligations they have that are written in their contracts, if I'm going to make the biggest impact with the highest, part of the sport, then I'm going to go here. And you're going to force most of them to choose, right? Which one am I going to go to? And so I think the really unfortunate part about this whole entire thing is that Ironman put the cart before the horse, right? And misadvertised what they were going to do. And then they're putting the women in Kona literally on an island by themselves. Yes, there were people there. Yes, it'll still be exciting. Yes, it'll still be an amazing professional race. But I think people want to be together, whether you like it or not. Separate days are great, but it's just time to go. It's time to go, right? And so what I believe is going to happen, or I hope what happens is these next 2 years are going to be the last you're ever going to see of the split month. I think they're just kind of making the best they can do. This year, you're going to see the women in Kona and the men somewhere, right, in Nice. Roll downs are going to fall all the way down to like 25th and 30th, right? It's especially here in America, because half the people don't want to go to Nice, or it's not the real World Championship. So now what you've done is you're confusing people about what the World Championship venue is, right? Which I think is great. But you're confusing people because you're still in Kona. Before you were in St. George. Now you're back to Kona. Now the women get Kona, but now we're also going to Nice. Like, where is it? People need, especially triathletes, they need something to be predictable. And so then the next year they'll send the women to the same location. We'll call it Nice because that's where the rumors are. And the men will go to Kona. And what'll happen is the thing will flip. In the U.S., getting a slot to quote unquote the World Championships Kona is going to be almost impossible to come unless you win your age group, which I'm totally fine with. Like, make it really hard to qualify for a quote unquote World Championships. But then in the US, if it's the females in Nice, it's going to roll down again to like 30 deep at least. That's not a World Championship. It's just not. And then you're going to sit there. And then after that, what I believe is going to happen, what I hope is going to happen for the sport, is that you're going to see a rotating venues. Kona, we realized we fucked up when we put a race back to back there. We, however, think as a business that's the best model for us. Can you tolerate it if we come back every 3 years? Sure. Every 3 years you can come back and take over the island for a week. It's better than you ruining it for every year for, every week for a year. And what you're going to happen is you're going to see a rotating Ironman World Championships that's concrete, where you'll start off with the men and women in Kona, on a Friday, Saturday, or a Thursday, Saturday, and then the next year the Ironman World Championships, well, I don't know, be somewhere around the world, right? So where some of the fast athletes playing are in Europe, and they don't even care about going to Kona because it's all about who can afford it. And then you're going to have Ironman World Championships in Nice, and the next year you might have them in Australia, right? Very, very similar to what they're doing for the 7.3, and then they'll rotate back, and that will dictate, who signs up and who doesn't sign up. And I think it's just a giant cluster. I think obviously spreading it out and moving a world championship to other venues is awesome. I encourage it. I think it's fantastic. You just can't be halfway in and halfway out. But it goes to show, I think, how much Ironman created its own monster, right? With making it all about Kona. And now Kona can kind of hold them hostage. And it's if you want to grow, you have to go firmly and strongly in one direction. You can't kind of, I want to rebrand our entire business and how we do things and how we offer things and the things that we want to deliver, but let's keep the same logo, right? Let's keep the same. You got to change it all. If you're going to totally rebrand and grow, that's what you got to do. And that's just not what they're doing right now.
Okay.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I had a list here, bullet points, and you pretty much just stole all my thunder. No. I have some thoughts on this, actually. One, I put a lot of time into thinking about this, maybe like 20 minutes, and a little research. You know how I do it.
Oh, no. In man hours, that's like 4 days.
I was up late, deep into the night, thinking about this podcast, and I've come to two conclusions. One, I think it's a bad idea, and two, I don't really care, because the reason I don't care, I don't think I don't care about the sport or the whatever, but in reality, like, I've talked about this a lot, and like you said, a lot of the things I would have probably said there about, it's about money, and it's about who can afford to go, and you got the roll downs and all that, and you kind of, for me, the whole luster of it's kind of been stripped away over the years, the last several years, actually, because, it's just when I started, you were started before me, but when I started, it was still kind of a big deal. I mean, it is still, but now you're starting to water everything down. I used to work in minor league baseball for one of the more successful minor league franchises in Indianapolis, and we had a philosophy. You had so much money to spread out for, if you've ever been to a minor league game, there's always sort of an attraction there, or they've got something going on to help sell tickets and everything to get people interested in it. We had a philosophy is like, if you have X amount of money and you have an option of really bringing in a huge draw to make an average night great, or over the course of 2 days, you want to make two average events, you always went for the great one because it creates the buzz. And I feel like that's exactly what they're doing here, is they're watering down the great event to make two meh sort of events. It was sort of like if we had money in Indianapolis, we could get the Max the Clown Patkin and Harry the Juggler, or we could get the San Diego Chicken and sell out 15,000 seats versus like 5,000 nights or 6,000. Mm-hmm. We would always go for the chicken. It would create the more buzz, and you probably never heard of the San Diego Chicken, but it was a huge draw back in the day. Yeah,
I never heard of it.
Anyway, I actually know that guy, or knew him back in the day. But anyway, he would pack the stadium and the kid. I mean, it was just always a huge night. And when I think about Kona being split with men and women, first of all, what the hell? You know, I didn't like the idea out there personally. I know they wanted to get more people on the course, but for me, Ironman has always been this inclusive event where you race with women, you race with the pros, everyone's in it, and that's the mystique about it, to me anyway. Now all of a sudden you got the pros separate, and I know everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people sort of liked the idea that they could give more attention to each one of the pro fields throughout the day. But Jesus, it's 8 hours. Like, if you're a diehard, you know these people, and you're really fan. Like, how many real fans? Like, were you upset that your guy or girl didn't actually win, like you would be if UT lost or something? It's just different, you know. I know people are into it, but I don't think that they're into it as much as they think. And I always talked about building from the ground up with Ironman. It's like, I don't really care. That's what I mean about their Kona World Championship stuff, because until you can start getting 3,000 people back at Wisconsin, or more than 6,000 at Waco or whatever, it's like, for an Ironman, like, what are you doing? You're just like, your whole thing should be about getting more people into the sport and giving them a good experience, rather than treating your high-end athletes, like they are the sport, which they are not. I mean, it's like opening a baseball playoff and having my college team play the Astros in the first round. I mean, like, I've known a ton of really good athletes that have gone to Kona and absolutely got shellacked.
Yeah.
I think they're good athletes, and they lose their age group by 4 hours. I mean, it's a pointy end deal. There's a handful of athletes in every age group that are right at the top, and then most everyone else is just kind of going to Kona and racing out there. It's not like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like as big of a deal as they think it is. It's like,
there's so much I think that could. I honestly think this decision is going to go one of two ways, and it's not in the medium. It's going to greatly impact the sport in a positive way, or it'll greatly impact the sport in a massively negative way. Because one of the biggest, the part that I guess I hate the most is that, when the Women for Tri thing is not about having more women participate in triathlon. I think that's great. I mean, our roster is over 60% women. Like, I think it's wonderful, but the lie that they're telling is this is how we're going to grow the sport, right? By giving more slots to the minority that does, in hopes that they can afford to go. And that's what's going to, really put people on a pedestal. But the biggest thing is that, the price alone is what's causing the lack of demand, the price to go. But, you can't just assume that, the person makes a podium, surely they can afford to go to Kona. It's like 15 grand to go. It's like, the rest of the world would laugh, right? When the average annual income and salary of a person is in like the 30s, that's what people are groveling over. And that's how you're going to grow a sport, right? Is to increase the price. And because the thing is, you can say you're not increasing participation in the sport. You're increasing participation in a single event by adding additional slots and creating twice the revenue for yourself, right? If you want to increase, because one of the biggest kind of entry level excitements things have when people get into sport is they see, I want to qualify for Kona / World Championships because it looks impossible. It looks really, really, really hard to get into, right? To do in itself. And I think one of the failures that the business side of Ironman sees is they're thinking only short term, right? What can we do in the short term to make some extra cash? Not how can we turn the sport to, it'll never be 50-50. Whether you want to hear that or not, it just won't. It'll never be 50-50, men and women. Triathlon has ceased to grow at the rate that running has. in the last 5 to 6 years. The statistics prove it. They're all there. They're concrete. Running has grown rapidly, especially among females for a variety of reasons. And one of the biggest ones is time in the investment. And it's so much cheaper. Right? If you said, hey, I'll give you $15,000 and I'll pay for every running race you want to do for the rest of your life, you would say, can I keep the cash left over? Because no matter how many running races you sign me up for, I'm still going to have cash left over. You're like $50. It's insane. And so it's the cost and the price of it. And if you want to improve the sport and get it from 75 to 25 or 70 to 30 on a good day, you want to get it closer to 64. You don't start at the hardest, most expensive piece. You start at the bottom. The Ironman group or Ironman, whatever it is, has bought rock and roll running races. Right? They buy smaller races. They bought gravel races. Buy some smaller events. Get people into the sport, right? Grow it from the ground up. Put your investment into that, and creating long-time customers is what you want. You don't want one-and-doners. It's not good for business. You want return customers who love the sport. People like you and I, right? Who live and breathe the sport, who've been into it for such a long period of time. Not to where it's just solely based on how much you can afford. Because it isn't. It's not just about how fast you are. It's about how fast you are and how much money you make. That's it. And do you want to travel halfway across the world for a week to get your ass kicked? That's another piece of it. Kind of like you said. And so what it's done, it's really put the sport in a really interesting place. And what I hope it does is it leaves Kona and it removes this stigma of Kona being triathlon, Ironman being triathlon, instead of triathlon being triathlon, and endurance sports being endurance sports. Because it's not good for the sport, right? I mean, we've all been in the conversation, oh, you've done an Ironman? Have you done Kona? That's how horrible of an advertising job the brand has done. It's like, it's an island. It's not even a race. It's an island. It's Ironman World Championships. And again, like you could argue for, 50 hours on calling yourself a World Championships when you only stay on one small island in the United States that's really hard to get to from, half the world, and that's for US 15 grand. It's more for other places. Yeah, we'll just split it up. It's like, make a decision to move on for the great of the sport, not to save face. And sometimes it's best to move on. You got to know when you're not welcome anymore, right? And if you want the sport to grow, again, start at the bottom. Buy out some sprints or some Olympics. Lower the price because that's like it's like your minor leagues, if you will. Your AAA is like, start at the bottom, grow it all the way, and that's just, it's not. I think it's a horrible way. And even though they're saying it's for equality and women, it's not for money. And most women will tell you that. I'm sure a lot of people are afraid to say that because you'll get crucified. I'm sure I'll get crucified for something on this, but 7 women specifically that have been to Kona that I've talked to, that are on the team, that I've talked to offline, have all said they think it's ridiculous, the new rules. But you can't say that, right? Because then you get, then you're all of a sudden anti-women, if you say that. But it's true. Like, they want to race against the best of the best, and it's also not about growing the sport. It just be honest and transparent. Don't fall under the hashtag women for try or we're doing this for you're doing for money. And what I actually think you're doing is the great way to advertise your sport is not to be like, hey, you're a man or a woman walking down the street, or leaving the gym and somebody in the locker room, is like, hey, Jenny, hey, Jack, I see that's an Ironman World Championship bag you've got. Yeah, it is. Did you participate? I did. Yeah, I did. That's amazing. Tell me about that. I've always been interested in getting in the sport. Okay, well, let me start. So let me start at the back end before I give the truth of the matter. If you want to go to Kona, you're going to have to spend a lot of money to get there, to train. You're going to have to spend at least, probably on average, the athletes that qualify for Kona, male and female, in your peak season, you're probably going to average anywhere from 15 to 25 hours a week. So you give up a whole day of your week. No biggie. You got kids and we all get jobs, but whatever. Give up a day of your week. And then you have to race a lot. And you're going to hope you get a slot. And then when you do get a slot, you're going to have to pay $1,200 to do it, in the race you just paid to do, hotels, accommodations, taking time off work, time away from your family. And then if you really do want to go, you just don't want like the lay or whatever else they offer, you're going to spend at least another 15 grand to go do it. Oh, they're not going to be like, oh, dude, sign me up. I can, you know what? I forget the college fund I got set for my kids, forget all these plans I've got, forget the redo of my kitchen, having an emergency fund in my savings account. Dude, sign me up. I'm in. And it's going to take me 4 years to get there. Oh, dude, I'm in. No, that is like, listen how absolutely idiotic that sounds as a pitch to get more men or women to do a sport is to glorify the hardest, longest event that's the most expensive. Start with like 70.3s, right? That are doable. Sprints, Olympics, grow the sport in a meaningful way, because those people that want to do it to a point where they want to keep chasing that dream, because dreams take long to chase. Because you know what else that's good for? That's good for the sport. Chasing dreams. Right? What's been created, again, both on the male and the, because you can talk about the female side all you want, but this happened back in 2020 and 2021, where they just kind of last minute threw, 150 slots at Lake Placid and Coeur d'Alene, and you had Kona slots rolling down to like 30th for men. 30th. Lifelong dreamers who want to go to Kona, boom, in an instant, going to Kona. Congratulations, you took it, you capitalized, and there's nothing wrong with that. I see nothing wrong with taking those slots, but I know I've been in the sport for forever. The drive and the passion and the obsession with getting there is what keeps a lot of people in the sport. And so now again, another symptom of society. Let's shrink the amount of time you have to complete something, right? You don't need to run 6 days a week. You can run 2 and be awesome. No, you can't. And now it's the same thing for women. Right? Now you got it rolling down to, I know specifically, Ironman Western Australia, the 55, 59 age group had 21 participants, and it rolled down to 19th place. So you were third from last, 3+ hours behind the winner, and you're both going to Kona. That just doesn't scream world championship to me. And what it also doesn't scream is, it's like you're done. You've reached the quote unquote the now pinnacle of the sport, and you get in your first year, right? Because there's 50 females in your age group, and there's 25 slots. So every the percentages were like, I was reading a breakdown of the percentages is basically 16%, almost 70% of the women in the sport will race in Kona, where 3% will be men. But the thing is, it's not about equality, right? To me, it's not. Because that's not what they're advertising. They're advertising how much money they want to make. It's about this is how we see growth, and growth is in our pocket, in our financials. That's what we're growing, because you're not growing the sport. You're making, anytime you make things easier for anyone, males and females. And again, like if you're a male or a female and you've got a roll down slot at 30th, take it. It's an opportunity, one you might not ever get in. I don't bemoan or I don't criticize anyone who's taken a slot to any world championship. They are providing the opportunity. You're taking it. But then there's a luster that is lost, I think, whether people want to admit it or not, of the event that has made triathlon into this obsession, which is, I hope I can go one day. Not, well, if I show up to the right race with, oh, surprise, we're going to get 200 slots at, whatever race, what's going to happen? And it does it. It takes it away, and it's not about growing it, because none of the additional slots they've given away this year has grown the sport for women. It's just offered more opportunities for the ones that can afford it to go. And that's the unfortunate part, I think, of how it's being advertised and how it's actually hurting, the sport. Because women are, in a lot of ways, are also no different than men in that they're bucket listers. I want to do this and then be done. And that got my world championship, been to Kona. Well, now what? Now, do I really want to keep putting in 20 hours a week and I might not qualify again? And it won't even be in Kona. It'll be somewhere else. They're going to drop out or do less, right? And so you're not getting a return customer. I just think it's a horrific business move. However, having said that, I hope that it's such a bad move that it actually ends up growing the sport because it removes the have you done Kona as the ticket you have to punch and the permit and the card you have to carry to be a triathlete. And the same goes for Ironman. It's the same reason that Ironman Triathlon, or 70.3s is the most popular event, because it's the easiest on the time. It's the least expensive, and that's just something that's on people's mind. I mean, I can talk about this for like 5.5 hours, but I think, and I hope that it's such a terrible move that it forces them to get out of Kona and do something else somewhere. And there's always going to be the old schoolers who are like, we can't do Kona is triathlon. Well, the first one wasn't even in Kona. Okay. It was on a different island in Hawaii. So be historically accurate. It's just not, it's our own obsession with our own things. Right. And if talking to people who've been in the sport forever, and some are like, you can't have it anywhere else. And the other ones are like, yeah, it'll be weird the first year or two, but then it'll be gone. And it'll be something different. That's just how it goes, right? That's how it goes. Like in tennis, for example, you got 4 majors, and they're all different places. Same with golf, right? The World Cup, they rotate cities. The Olympics rotate cities. It's like it's different places. It's about keeping the integrity of the name of the event, right? And what it takes to get there. And so much of it is just being totally washed out, either because it's a money grab, or it's a fear of hurting someone's feelings, or alienating a certain sex, or it hasn't been fair in the past, and now we have to make it over fair this time. It's like that part of it's exhausting, right? It's like we have to overdo this because we haven't done this, and then you market it as that, but really it's about how many more dollars can you put in my pocket. And if you think that they're doing this to grow the women's sport, then you're just naive. I'm just going to tell you that right off the bat. If you really truly think Ironman, the business, cares about growing, female sports, and you're probably the same person that believes the NFL cares about breast cancer when they put pink on their jerseys and sell them on NFL.com. Whoa. It's the exact same thing, right? Or how much the NFL cares about the military when they put, camouflage on jerseys. I think they donate 5% of what they make off jersey sales when they do that. They pocket the rest. It's a business move. It's a 100% business move. And that's what they're doing. And so the quicker we can realize that and kind of regroup as a population of triathletes and of people who participate in endurance sports, the better off we're going to be.
Okay. That I used to, when I started, Kona was always on my mind. And honestly, though, when I associate Kona with myself, that means that I put in tremendous work and improved and got really good and fast. It wasn't about really just getting there to say I went there. It was about, that's why I've always been, because when I started, I feel like I had to be 1 or 2 in my age group, and it didn't really roll down, or 3. And, I think the closest I've ever been is 14th or something. So I always just talk about how I was kind of close, but the difference between 14 and 2 is night and day. It's way different. So at a point, I still think it's most people get in this sport because they want to feel better about themselves and be healthy and happy and the stuff we always talk about. And that to me is what's getting lost in translation here, because I don't think anybody really cares in the big scope. I think if you, I used to play softball, and we competitively, and we used to play in what they called the national championship tournament or whatever. And we would go there, and absolutely zero fans. Nobody gave a shit. It was just us, and the other teams watching or whatever. Then I might play in a local tournament here, like at Sand Festival or something like that, and there'd be 5,000 people sitting around the field cheering and having a good time and stuff. People don't really care about those top end triathletes. I really believe that. And now I've even got to the point where, because it's hard to legitimately qualify to go to Kona or a world championship in the traditional sense, the top 2 or 3 in your age group. That's very difficult. It's very difficult. So I got to a point, though, in the last few years where I mean, like, I'm not type A, that type of driven. I don't think probably a lot of people in this sport, they just want to go out and have a good race and have a good time and whatever. I got to the point where I was like, well, even if I do qualify for Kona, I don't think I'm going to go because I don't know if I have it in me to go back to back with that type of effort. You know what I'm saying? It's like you qualify and then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, now you got to keep your, stones to the ground and keep going hard. And I don't know. This is like a lifestyle thing, for most people. And like you're saying, all this money talk and all that kind of stuff, it's like, how can we just get better, smaller races and get more people involved and have a good time with it? It's like, I've been talking about it, but, I've gone to probably 20, 30 Ironman races in my career, either as a spectator or a racer. And I just feel like the enthusiasm or, like something's going on. I feel like they're mailing it in a lot nowadays, kind of cookie cuttering the whole event where it used to kind of have a little more sass about it. And I don't know if that's just, I don't know what that is, but to me, it seems like there's a lot more things you could do on the ground with the actual base, the 99% of the people that are in this sport that aren't going to try and win Kona or Nice or whatever it is. And it seems like there's a lot more opportunity in making this an enjoyable process for people rather than, trying to dictate what's going on from the top, It's like, get into, if you're, the NFL, truly make efforts in the youth leagues. And I know they say they do or whatever, but, it's all about the Super Bowl. It's kind of the same thing, it's like the glitz and pizzazz of, 2 billion people watching one stupid game in a dome.
Yeah.
It's like, what even is that? I don't know. We're just like, I don't know what we're doing as people sometimes.
Well, I mean, I think everyone, and because again, like we go back to, business, and I think everyone in business that owns or runs any business, at some point probably loses sight of why they started to do what they are doing. And same thing goes for why we got it in the sport of triathlon, right? We've got tons of podcasts on that subject, about forgetting your why and how much you loved. Because at the core of it, you're 100% right. Only 10%, and that's shooting large. Only 10%. Well, now that they give more slots, it's probably close to accurate. The only 10% of people that participate in triathlon give a shit about that topic. I care a lot about it because I care about the sport, and we have a lot of athletes that participate and impacts, people, and I follow the sport rigorously. But only less than 10% of the people that ever participate in Ironman are ever going to get even sniff getting an opportunity to participate in the World Championships, right? For a variety of reasons. So no, it doesn't. It doesn't impact as many people as you think. But I think the part that I think gets me so fired up and so frustrated about it is that, the most impactful, influential people, right, that put on the events, that are behind Ironman, they're starting at the top, right? The top 1%. How can we impact the top 1% and get the most money out of them and where we go? Not how can we be more grassroots oriented and grow and impact. But again, most businesses aren't in the business of impact, right? They're in the business of impacting the size of their wallet, right? And I think that's an association understanding that we all have to have and can't be naive about, is that, and businesses have to do what they have to do so they can be around, right? To be businesses and to provide opportunities for us to do different things. That's why, I think it's always, really, hard to judge all businesses, because you're like, hey, if you love the business, you can't be super critical, because if they're doing something, you hope it's so they can continue to be around, so you continue to utilize the business, right? Because availability and opportunity is there. But it's very societal and culture a good cultural reminder of, I think, where we are as a, not as a world, but at least here in the U.S., it's how much money can we make, and how many people can we, and not how many people can we impact, right? And you and I've always talked about since we started this, and we are by far the firm the best business model to follow, but of a slow burn, and creating meaningful relationships with great people, and how that, but obviously we're afforded that because we're not a gigantic billion-dollar company like Ironman. It's just, now I hope to see, in the future, more efforts from everyone, ourselves included, to grow the sport at a grassroots, meaningful level that integrate triathlon and its ability to impact your life in a positive way. That's relatively, I'm not going to say low cost, because finances are very personal, and one person's low cost is another low cost. I mean, we were joking before the for the podcast that Elon Musk could probably pull 50 million out of his ashtray in his Tesla. It's like there's just it's sad, but it's the reality, and hopefully, at the end of this, very heated and opinionated, but mostly passionate podcast, because it's something that you and I are both passionate about. Maybe me a little bit more on this one, but it comes from a place of passion and love, and a place where we want to see a sport that we love and that has changed our lives continue to grow, and for the sport and at the highest level of the sport, which is Ironman, the business, to respect that. That there comes with great power, like they say, with great power becomes great responsibility. And I believe that is what Ironman has. It has a tremendous, unbelievable power across the globe. That also comes with a heightened sense of responsibility. And it can't be short-sighted. It has to be long-term. How can this benefit everyone in the long term? Do I want to take, it's like the person who wins the lottery. You can take 400 million guaranteed and get it tomorrow and pay taxes, or you can have 900 million spread out across the next 30 years. I mean, if you're super smart, you're taking the bigger sum, right? Spread out across time. I bet you, I don't know the statistics on this, but I bet you most people take the lump sum, and that's kind of the view that I think, that I hope triathlon and other businesses and organizations and race management companies have in the sport is, I want more people over 20 years than I want in the first 5. And because that's how you grow a sport, and a sport that we're both very, very passionate about, and that has impacted us in a enormous amount of ways positively.
Yeah, well, we can wrap it up here. And I think you kind of hit on something earlier when you're talking about tennis. And I think that honestly might be the model. And I like golf, and it's the same type of thing where they have, the what do they call them? The Grand Slam or the whatever. And, Kona can be, sort of the Masters, and Nice can be the PGA champ, whatever, the Wimbledon, or you know what I mean? Like I think you create, I think, and St. George can be a great one for that in there. And you create, sort of 4 Masters or 4 cups or whatever you want to call them. And then all of a sudden, now you're getting to the kind of the bottom of who's the best pro, when they have different courses and things like that. How's that panning out, So,
exactly.
So that could be interesting, and I think obviously I've heard Nice is an unbelievable venue and race anyway. So, why not like it? Why not let us?
Real jet setter.
Yeah, you are. I've learned a couple things about you. You like Long Beach, California.
That's right. And, I lived in the LBC, baby, for about 4 or 5 months. Yeah, I've flown to France. This is a long time ago before I was terrified.
4 big races, man. 4 big races a year. I think it'd be awesome.
Dude, agreed.
That could be the overall deal. It's like, then you talk about making money, and then you got age groupers all want to go. I want to go do the Masters in Kona, and then the World Championships in Nice, and then you want them, then they can do them all 4, split them up every 4 months, and just go for it.
I like it.
And then they could be hard to get in,
you know. It is, you know, like a point system. You know, I agree. Like, you know, a world championship should be held on a different course in a different place that demands different things. It's just, you know, it's a totally different venue. Because here's the fact is that if you got more than likely, you take the top 20 females and the top 20 males, and you put them out to the side, and then you put 4 different Ironman World Championship venues in their own line, and then you got to click and drag, you know, which pro you thought would win that race. More than likely, out of the 4 races, you're going to at least, at minimum, if you know anything about professional triathletes, which is, you know, again, like, you know, not many people because no one really cares. It's you're going to have at least 2 different winners if you know their strengths, right? And that's the beauty of it, right? It's a world championship. It gets, you know, people around the world, not just on this really small island. Doesn't really want you there. That's only good if you can do hot, windy conditions in this part of the year. You know, I think they should change the time of year up. You know, it's a, you know, I think it's one of those things that would be great for professional sports to highlight it, you know, and how much more excited, I mean, especially in Europe, which is the fact they've got the fastest athletes. They just do. I mean, especially on the male side. Women's side, I think, you know, we got the 2 top women, 70.3 world champion and Ironman world champion. We got some in there, but it is different. Do it different. It's good. It's fresh. It keeps people moving, you know, and you can't just, you know, do the same thing. Like always listen to, I know you said we're going to wrap it up here. I'm totally screwing that one, but, you know, listen to so many, there's a bunch of podcasts with like some of the older champions like Craig Alexander and Chris McCormick. And they would all say like, yeah, I did this training block that worked in Kona. And so I would just basically do it again every year. What?
Yeah.
Change it up, you know, from, you know, St. George to Kona to Nice to Australia to New Zealand to, you know, Ironman Frankfurt to like some of these crazy places, right? In Ireland, right? It's like these insane, you would see, it would make for like, you wouldn't be able to predict the race like you can in Kona because it could be brand new. And that's the exciting piece about it. But I'm gonna shut up right now. Yeah. As always.
Well, hang on and keep the men and women together.
Yes.
Because I know a lot of, you know, the one other quick thing is that I know a lot of Kona types that are either married or in relationships, and now you're going to send them to all, you know, to do different races. It's kind of silly. And then also I would bring in parimutuel betting, and then we could really blow up as a sport.
Oh, dude, that would be fantastic.
Why not? Everyone else is doing it.
Why not? Here, yeah, that's the motto. Why not? I mean, it is, yeah, and that's the big thing. I'm glad you brought that up. Is leave everybody in the same place. We want equality. We want unity on different continents and different months. It's like, what the fuck? No, you don't. No, you don't. It is. It's keep in the same place. That's what triathlon is, right? Or at least it should be. Triathlon should be inclusive, not exclusive. And this next year is the opposite of that. So as always, we love you. We appreciate you. And if I offended you on this podcast, well, sorry, I guess. But you know, you might not like it. It might be hard to hear, but most oftentimes it's just the truth, hard facts. And that's what we give. That's why we don't have sponsors or ads.
Yeah.
With Ironman. It's like, that's just it. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. And we truly do want the best for you in the sport. And if you need anything or have any questions, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike specifically, he is at CrushingIron@gmail.com. Or if you need anything from me, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com.
Okay, my man. I think we solved it. I think everything's settled. Let's just
I think so too. I'm currently editing my inbox settings to have all mail forwarded to CrushingIron@gmail.com. That way you can sift through all the hate mail and how insensitive I am.
We love the sport. We're just trying to.
We do. We love the sport. And we
keep it real, man. Let's keep it real.
That's what we do. And we'll keep it real, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
All right, buddy. See ya.
See you.